Well, good morning, guys. Today is day 40 of the Nancy Guthrie case, and we are no closer to finding out what happened to Nancy Guthrie as we were on February 1st, 2026, when we learned she disappeared. But not just disappeared, ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night by a masked gunman. From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you. God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims. I'm Bullhorn Betty. Again, we're covering the case of Nancy Guthrie. Today is day 40. We do not have a whole lot of information. It sounds like media has given up on this case. We have a few people, Brian Enton, JLR, some other YouTube and TikTokers out there monitoring the situation. But other than that, we have nothing. We don't know where Nancy is. We don't have a vehicle to search for. We don't have an area to search. We don't have a direction that the assailant went. We only have a lot of questions and no answers. And when we ask Pima County Sheriff's Department to clarify, we get the runaround. We get one statement to this news organization and a different statement to this organization. Contradiction upon contradiction, or telling us one thing, pulling it back. We don't know what the heck is going on in this case. And all we want to know is Nancy dead? Is she alive? Will she be coming home? Are we any closer to finding out what happened to her and who that masked gunman is on the outside of her home? And today I can tell you, we do not have those answers. We have no answers. We don't know what this is. We don't know if this is a robbery gone wrong. We don't know if this is a stalker. We don't know if this is a robbery ring. We don't know squat. And it's day 40, and we know nothing about Nancy Guthrie, what happened to her, or even the direction they went with her. We know she was dragged out of her house and never seen again. That's all we know. That's pretty scary 40 days in. We've watched this case go to a circus, then die down. Now we're kind of looking at any aspect of this case that will garner some information or a lead, an avenue to go down and investigate. We did see at the very beginning of this case, it appeared this case wasn't thoroughly processed for forensics. And the reason why we say that is because it has to do with this front area of Nancy Guthrie's house. In this area, right through the steps, there's an entryway. And this entryway is a covered entryway, that it has a security door and then her front door that leads into the house. When Brian Enton went to this area here, there were several things that were notable and noticed immediately. And that was a trail of blood, first and foremost. Then you have the lack of fingerprint dust on any item out there. You see foliage kind of crumpled up in the corner, but more importantly, you see a mat. Even if you do not know what is going on outside in that area, it was noticeable that something happened. There's blood out there. So that area there should have been thoroughly cleaned. They should have vacuumed the entire area. All that foliage should have been put into a bag and taken for trace evidence. That mat should have been removed, taken for trace evidence. So when Brian walked up to that door, we should have only seen a bare door with a missing camera. We should have never seen that debris there. We should have never seen that mat there. And that was our first indicator that this was not properly done, because now we've learned after the fact, we learn that the assailant was standing right in that area. What type of trace could have been garnered from that mat? We don't know. We will never know. Why? Because they did not do a thorough job at the beginning of this case. Shortly after that, they released this crime scene that allowed Brian Inton to even walk up to the front door to even observe those items there, which was concerning for many of us. And then Sheriff of Pima County, Chris Nanos, tells us, how would we know if they released the crime scene too soon? It's because we're the true crime community. This is all we do. We eat, drink, and sleep crime. So every case, we research other cases. We know how long law enforcement locked down cases for. We watch it every single day on our channels. We broadcast it to our audience on a daily basis. So this illusion that the public has no idea what processing a crime scene looks like, proper processing a crime scene looks like, or whether a crime scene is released early or not, I beg this sheriff to wake up and smell the roses, because we're very knowledgeable about crime. It is all we do. And for this to be released, locked down, opened up, it's going to be a smorgasbord of arguments that a defense attorney is going to be able to raise to try to exclude any evidence that was garnered after that fact inside this house because of this officer releasing this crime scene too soon. Those are potential arguments in the future. Right now, all we want to know is, where is Nancy? You know, even the suspect and the assailant, we want them behind bars at some point, but what's our objective? Our objective is to bring Nancy home, dead or alive. That's our objective. We want to bring this woman home to her family. And the way this investigation is going, that may never be possible. This is an active case. This is a very, very, very active case. We still see law enforcement regularly out and about, questioning people out in the community. Those are the things that we would like to see in investigations like this. This means that they still have avenues to investigate. What is the definition of a cold case? The definition of a cold case means that you've exhausted all avenues of investigation. There's nothing left to investigate. Okay, you're just sitting and waiting for something to break. Okay, so we're not in that realm right now. When law enforcement when we stop seeing them out, which again is very important for us to have media out in that area monitoring this situation, which we do, thankfully. And we can see the activity. Once that activity stops, we're now moving into a cold case. Unfortunately, the first 48 hours are the most detrimental and most important to a case. It can make or break a case. And the first 48 hours, they were focused on all the wrong people, in my opinion. So where does that leave us today? I think we're outside of the 48, and I don't think we have avenues of suspects. The only suspect that I see that has a viable source forward, and many people disagree with me while I'm not accusing this man of any wrongdoing, but the most viable path that I've seen so far that would make sense and would bode with Occam Razor is Luke Daly. He does meet a lot of the criminal profile boxes. He is close in proximity. He would know that area very well. He would be fluent with those back roads, the maze of the Catalina foothills, because he lives in the neighborhood. So, and he has a substance abuse, criminal problems. He's got a lot of problems in his young, he's under the age of 40. He really fits the bill really, really well. And he was the only one out of the three suspects that were accused that actually went out of their way to change their appearance. And then when he wanted to be interviewed, he brought his mom along, and then his mom was caught distancing herself from knowing the Guthrie family, although his attorney had already stated she had ran into them. She acted like she didn't know that they lived in their community and had never seen them before when she gave this interview, which completely contradicted what her and Luke's attorney had stated that his understanding was. So we do have some problems in the interview from his own mother, Mary, as well as him. You know, there was a lot of things that I saw, but more importantly, he had a very much swollen and right hurt hand. And this is the non-ring finger. This is the non-married finger. And this is where we saw a ring on the assailant's hand on outside of that door. Well, not only does Luke have a swollen right hand, there's a ring on his married finger. Why would it be on his married finger when he's not married? Is it possible that he moved it from one finger to the other? Maybe because his hand is swollen? It is possible. And we're also looking for somebody that might have tattoos. Well, he has a lot of tattoos up and down both arms from photos that I've seen. And so I found it kind of funny that he shaved his face and he wore long sleeve shirts so none of us could see his arms when he did that interview with Brittany. So, but his hair is brown. This was a night vision image. It couldn't tell you what color his hair was. Period. It could only show light and dark. If you know anything about night vision, it's only whites, darks, and grays. That's all that's ever used in there. So you're never going to be able to see color. You're never going to be able, and it's always been my understanding in night vision, it's kind of opposite. So stuff that's really, really white will show up really, really white, but some things that are like gray or different colors can show up as a gray, a black, or even a white. And that can be like bright, like this red right here may show up in some night vision as white. So we can't really go off color. We can say that whoever was there had a very prominent mustache, beard, or goatee. Luke Daly had a full face of dark hair on his face when he was detained. He immediately shaved his face and changed his appearance. He was the only one out of the 3 people accused that did that. I just want to point that out. That to me could mean something. Why would he want to change his appearance? Why would he want to change his appearance? He wants to change his appearance because he's scared we're going to see his face and we are going to compare it to that image. His eyes do kind of match up with the image, in my opinion. I know Sleuth Intuition kind of did a comparison. I wasn't really buying into that comparison when he did it because I wasn't really looking at Luke Daly at the time. I was kind of looking more for somebody closer to home, maybe a distant family, somebody that worked with them, somebody that worked for the neighbors, something like that. So when Luke Daly came up, I kind of dismissed him until some more information came out. And that more information came out when they chose to do an interview. They could have just let this case die out. They could have let the suspicion around him die out. Him and his mother chose to do an interview. They chose to go to the media. They chose to go under additional scrutiny because of that. There's no way that they're going to be able to sue their way out of this if they go to the media to talk. We have a right to scrutinize anything that they state to the media. And quite frankly, he had a swollen hand that was well observed. He walked in there, which had kind of this wobble that I have seen on the outside of Nancy Guthrie's home. And I got to say, the whole thing about the ring on the other finger really does bother me. Why does he have a middle finger ring? We're looking for a dude with a flat, thick middle finger ring. And middle finger ring, we found a guy that has tattoos, that has a middle finger ring, or a ring finger ring, and has tattoos on his arm. Well, I hate to tell you, Luke Daly fits that bill. And he's from that neighborhood. So it seemed like he was very comfortable, creeping at night. From everything I heard, somebody was very comfortable. That maze back there where Nancy lives, it's a freaking maze. It's a maze. Did you see Brian Enton drive that? that trying to navigate that at night from not being around there, that would be extremely difficult. And you would probably have to drive fairly slow. You're not driving, like you know where you're going. You're driving like you've never been on these roads before because they are such a maze. I don't even want to know what it's like back there because I looked at the map of the area and I'm looking at all these splits in the road and I'm like, who planned this area? This is one hot mess express of planning. Whoever their county planners are, they should be fired. They should be fired. Those should have been nice, beautiful platted roads, not kind of a hodgepodge, of everybody just plopping houses wherever and you just making the roads work. I mean, that's what it looks like. I've never seen such a. I'm from Florida. We plan in boxes. Like we try to crush everything into blocks. And so we have nice square stuff. We don't have this hodgepodge of a maze, a cornfield maze, and call that a community. But that's what I'm seeing out there. This is the worst planning I've ever seen from a county in my life. To be honest with you, you should have nice straight thoroughfares, and arteries, and they don't have that. I don't like it, but I'm a Floridian, I don't have to like, Arizona, how they do Arizona stuff, but that would annoy me. Either way, it just proves that somebody that did this has to be familiar with those types of roads, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That would make sense because we've seen Brian Enton out there. Brian Enton's been out there for weeks, and so is JLR. And my understanding, they still have problems navigating those roads. Aw, thank you, Just Me. I appreciate it. Some people are saying inside job. We've been bouncing around with that inside job. But just because Tommaso and Annie have been cleared doesn't mean it's still not an inside job. It just doesn't mean that it's their inside job. Right? It means that they're not the culprit. Maybe it's the neighbor's landscaper. Maybe it's the, and this is the part that I had a problem with Mary, and that's Luke's mom when she was speaking, because in one sense she's like, oh, I've never met them. I didn't even know they lived in the area. Oh, by the way, we watch Savannah all the time on our TV. And it's like, so you didn't see the many episodes of her being from Tucson? And then we hear from her attorney that, yeah, in fact, she did run into them at the grocery store. So now this illusion that she didn't even know that they were now Mommy Mary appears to be deceiving the public because she made two statements that absolutely do not make sense. You can't run into them at a grocery store and not realize they're not from that area, and then tell us that, that you didn't realize that this had anything to do with Luke, but they searched your house for 6 hours and detained you. There's no belief. I don't believe that she thought that she was just, giving them permission to go in her house and look for Nancy, even though she didn't think anybody would be there. And she made a very, very concerning statement before. She said that, people were coming to her house and knocking on her door even though they didn't have cameras. And she just chose not to answer the door. And that was before the SWAT. I think she was I think her and her son were intentionally not cooperating with law enforcement when they came to their house. Because that doesn't sound like media. And why would media be showing up to their house, Luke Daly's house, where him and his mother reside, when they never even were brought up in this case? We had no earthly idea who Luke Daly was until they raided the house. What media would be knocking on their door 2.5 miles away? What media? There was no media knocking on their door. So you know what that tells me? That those people were most likely law enforcement agents that they were intentionally and willfully not speaking to. And it is my understanding when law enforcement comes to your house, they stick a card in your door, much like media does. If media comes to your house and they know they're on camera, they typically will stick a business card in the door. So this idea that she had people coming to her house, knocking on her door with no cameras to speak to her, and she didn't bother opening the door and speaking to them, that sounds like she was giving law enforcement the runaround before they got the executed search warrant. Just my opinion. refusing to even talk to law enforcement before this. Because what you're describing is, it sounds like that was law enforcement, not media. What media, again, would be coming up to her house knocking before the raid? None of us even knew his name until after the raid. So afterwards, streamers were knocking on the door, but that's not what she said, Cindy. She was very, very specific. When she stated her statement, let me see if I've got it here. There she is. There, let me see. We'll listen to what she says here. Let me find the spot. You'll hear her say it. But she states that she's coming to the door, that they were at the door even though they didn't have cameras, and she just didn't want to talk to them. And then the next day there was the SWAT vehicle rolling up to her house. That's what she said. So they went in. Go ahead. Okay, here it is. Okay, here it is. This is this specific word. Let me, I've got to turn that because it's through my, we're not on here. So let me change my speaker so it comes out of my computer output. Okay, internal speakers. There we go. So yeah, here it is. 2:03. It's at 2:03 in the 2 minute. Are you guys ready? Can you hear?
Yeah, well, people were coming to the door and I wasn't necessarily answering it. They might not have even had a camera or anything.
Oh, it's not picking her up.
And then this one, late afternoon when they came in the big SWAT vehicles.
Did you guys hear that? Here, let's go back. So it said, this is her specific word. Yeah, well, people were coming to the door and I wasn't necessarily answering it. They might not have even had cameras or anything. And then this one, late afternoon, came the big SWAT vehicle. So she was having knocks on her door before the SWAT vehicle showed up. And that's her own statement. So I want you guys to hear this for yourself. Could you guys hear this? Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you guys get... Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. Let me get down to the bottom here. I see that we have some more messages here. If you guys can hear her, please give me a thumbs up. Could you guys hear her? Let's listen to it again. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Let's listen to it again.
Yeah, well, people were coming to the door and I wasn't necessarily answering it. They might not have even had a camera or anything. And then this one, late afternoon when they came in the big SWAT vehicles, pulled into my driveway. And
I think she's trying to give an excuse why she wasn't answering the door for law enforcement. She's trying to say, oh, well, we thought they were media. Well, why the hell would media be at your house 2.5 miles away when nobody ever heard of you before? That sounds like she's trying to justify not answering the door before that SWAT came. Doesn't that kind of feel like red flaggy to you? Raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat if you feel like that's red flag to you. Like, that feels red flag to me to hear that people were trying to speak to people inside this home before the SWAT showed up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is kind of, and that's why I keep coming back to Luke Daly, because I wasn't looking at him. He was out of sight, out of mind until they did this interview, but then I got to see their behavior. I got to hear the statements. I got to hear the misstatements too. And so I'm wondering, why would this innocent mom be intentionally and willfully misleading the public? And then I realized, well, they had a federal search warrant for her son. And we know how mommies can get with their son. And by the way, she was completely shocked. Now, mind you, her son's been in prison. He's not, it's not like she's got a choir boy here. And she's like, oh, I never thought it would be about my son. The hell? In my 20s, my mama got knocks at the door and it's like, what did so-and-so do this time? Like, what did Betty do this time, right? Like, I mean, come on. You got the SWAT coming, and your son's a fresh criminal, and you don't put one or two things together and figure this might have to do with your son. So it's just like, I felt it, she was trying to be genuine, and I can't imagine what she's going through. And she's a mom, right? She's a mom, so we have to remember that. I'm the other Sharon. Oh, gotcha. Well, it's nice to see you. So is she in denial for her son? It's possible. I don't want to accuse him of anything. There's nothing here that's screaming, oh, Luke did this, right? There's nothing screaming that. But there are things that are starting to develop that are making me say, well, I don't think we can move away from him too quickly. And I am now starting to understand why law enforcement is looking at this man because of these things. And I think it might have to do with, they probably identified this person had a hurt right hand as well. And for us to see Luke Daly with a very much swollen right hand, how in the hell did he get a hand that swollen? What happened? And why didn't he explain that when he was there for the interview? It was obvious his hand was swollen. Why was he in that thick flannel? It's freaking Arizona. It's like 100 degrees out there. He couldn't have found a thinner shirt to put a tie on than a thick ass flannel. He wanted to make sure nobody could see through that shirt as to what his arms were. So he covered his arms, he changed his appearance, and we caught his mom lying. So if you're wondering why I'm looking at Luke Daly, it's because of those reasons. It's not 100 degrees at night. Yeah, but it is during the day, and he was doing this interview during the day in that thick flannel. Go look at his outfit for that interview. That is not Arizona weather interview clothing. His mom was wearing light clothes. He was wearing thick clothing. In my opinion, he was intentionally and willfully trying to cover something. He changed his appearance. He shaved all his hair off his face. He covered all of his tattoos. We know we're looking for a tattoo somewhere around this area here. Does he have one? I bet you he does. And we found him with a flat ring on his ring finger on his married hand, but he's never been married. So if you're asking me, we can't accuse Luke of anything. We don't have enough to go on here. But there are some things that are saying, you know what, we cannot dismiss him. And I went back to listen to what the sheriff said and whether the sheriff has cleared him or Carlos, and he has not. He said, we've got our warrants executed. We got the information we needed, and we're moving on. And I don't know if that means we're moving on until something comes back. Because we know how long it takes for forensics to come back, especially trace. And I can't imagine how much stuff they took out of that car that we don't know about, but I'm pretty sure it's got to go to a lab for work. And I'm sure it's going to go into a, you get a number and it's got to go in the order in which it was received. This is no longer a priority case because the priority case was when everybody thought we were racing against the clock to find Nancy alive. It's 40 days later. We can't be, forcing all of our stuff to the front of the line. There's a lot of people in Arizona that have had homicides and other major crimes happen to them that have been waiting their turn in line, and that's just how the process works. So we're going to be in a hurry up and wait situation for all of this forensics to come back. And even though we have advancements and it does cut some time out, some of these things you can't cut too much time out. They have to go through several different, each material has to go through several different processes for investigation when it goes to a lab. It's not just, it goes under one process and that's it. You might have something that goes through trace, that goes through latents, that goes through other different processes to lift different materials or different evidence off one thing. One thing may have multiple things. It may have DNA. It may have trace. You never know. You never know what you're dealing with. So I think that might be what it is. But until the sheriff comes out like they did with the Guthries and say, look, we've cleared them. then we can move on. But right now, if it's not Luke, I feel like we're looking for somebody that might be like Luke and might be someone in the area much similar to the makeup of Luke, has a history of crime, substance abuse, lives at home with mommy. There's a reason why I say whenever you get a chance, like if your kids are in school, I understand that you want them to be under your house, but after school, after college, it's time to get them on. Okay? It's time for them to stand on their own 2 feet. If you are a parent, you need to be saving some money to help them get their first apartment. I don't care how you get them out of the house. They have to stand on their own 2 feet. The real life is what makes growth in adults. It's what makes people know what they're able to deal with. I do not like mommies and daddies leaving their kids in their house until they're 40 and 50 years old. That's ridiculous. That's insanity. Okay, that's contributing to the delinquency of your own child. That's ruining your own child, in my opinion. And I know people get a little upset when I start telling them how to parent, but cut it out. Children are not supposed to live with their parent into perpetuity. Your children, if you're guys, you guys got to go stand on your own 2 feet. If you're brothers, if you're friends, go get a place together. Go get a place together. I was taught never to be under my parents' thumb. Of my house as quickly as I could possibly do. 18, I had to come back. When I had to save for my home, but it was never to stay. It was never to stay, okay? And I'm sorry. Most people don't want to be living under mommy and daddy, okay? If you make it all that comfortable, then you ain't doing your mommy and daddy correctly, okay? I'm sorry. You can be their best friend when they're an adult, but when they're under an adult, you ain't their friend. You're their parent. Remember that. And it's time to give them a big old fat kick out of the house. Stand on your own 2 feet. We'll be here when you fall. The kids have got to get scraped up. All this stuff about you not wanting, how do you think people stay on bikes? It didn't take us months to learn bikes. We went out there 2 days, fell up, busted our knees, busted our elbow. We learned how to keep that bike upright real quick. Just saying. Just saying. American culture is once they're out of college, try to be on there. Yes, that's it. That's it. We need to get back to that culture. It's growth. It teaches our children. Our children are our future. Do we really want our future a bunch of politicians that still live at home with mommy? Come on. This is our future. They should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Okay? That's to find out how good of a parent you are. Maybe some parents don't really want to know. Right? Maybe some, okay, you guys can slap me in person. I still love you guys. I still love you crazy kids. All right, guys, but why are we getting into it? Well, look at Luke, okay? He's still with his mom, okay? Mommy deserves to quit being a mommy. She deserves to be grandma. And this guy's not trying to make her a grandma. He's trying to keep her a mommy, okay? He needs to cut the umbilical cord and go stand on his own 2 feet. Clearly, he can afford a Range Rover. If he can afford a Range Rover, he can afford his own damn apartment. I'm just saying. All right, guys, rock it out with your coffee beans out. Don't forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be safe. But more importantly, kind to one another. God bless.